Hello everyone, today we're making a tier list for Shadowverse Worldsbeyond, specifically for tournament. I'm making this tier list because the second week of tournament is coming up, and I think even the Grand Prix is coming up soon. So I think it'd be nice to explore what's the best deck for you to bring. I'm specifying tournament specifically because there is a difference between what's good in a tournament and what's good in ladder. For example, a good ladder deck has a high win rate, but maybe, for example, it struggles against Havencraft a lot. But it's okay because we don't meet Havencraft a lot, and so it will still be a good deck to bring on ladder because overall you just want to keep winning and racking up points. But for tournament, the main difference I would say is consistency. Consistency is super important because of how the tournament is structured, where you want consecutive wins instead of a high win rate. You're not basically given points based on win, similar to how rank is, but you have to consecutively win with a single deck. So let's say, for an example, a deck is super weak against Havencraft. It might be great on ladder, but the moment you meet on tournament, that's the end of your tournament. And so you generally want to avoid decks like that. And so with that being said, let's just jump right into it. And we are starting off with Forestcraft, which is actually one of the decks I just mentioned, because I would say this is an S tier ladder deck. However, it has a really bad matchup against Swordcraft, particularly when they start playing multiple wards in succession. Forestcraft basically has no way to get past 8 wards total. And so due to that, it has to become A tier. Let me show you an example deck list. Here we go. So this is a guy who's managed to rack up 17 consecutive wins, and this is the deck list. So feel free to check the QR code here. I would switch out one Olivia for Arya maybe, just to push in more damage early on. But hey, you can't deny the results, and this guy got plenty of that. I don't think I have much to say aside from that list. Essentially, the list is just to control the board and try to chip in damage before hitting them with the Roach Leader. I have a guide on this deck if you want on my channel already, so feel free to look into that. But that's mainly it for this deck. Moving on. Swordcraft. I mean, considering how I rated Forestcraft, this is basically the opposite of Forestcraft, where I think it's an A tier ladder deck, but I think it's an S tier tournament deck just because it doesn't really have any bad matchups per se. It's just a consistent deck. It doesn't have a matchup that is overly favored aside from Forest. But most importantly, I don't think there's a matchup that counters Swordcraft at the moment. Like some people might say Havencraft counters Swordcraft, but I don't feel like that's the case. Just because Havencraft generally wants to drag to the late game. But Swordcraft has Amelia to really help them survive the late game. And you can see so in the list that I'm going to be showing you guys. This is a list that's made 16 consecutive wins in, most importantly, master rank. So this isn't just some guy who got a lucky win streak. This is a top performing deck. And this is the list he runs. You can see he runs 3 Amelia and 3 Albert. Again, with 2 Olivia. I do feel Olivia is a very powerful card. I'm planning to make a legendary card tier list, and you can see where I rate Olivia there. But this is the Swordcraft list that netted this guy 16 consecutive wins in Masters. So, and with that being said, let's move on to the next craft. Next up is Rune, and I'm pretty sure most people will agree this is an easy S tier. It's a great ladder deck and as well as a great tournament deck. It doesn't really have bad matchups, maybe against aggro, but even when playing against aggro, it can just play that spell that heals 4, and that really sets aggro's back a lot. And Greya as well is such a good counter aggro card. It single-handedly takes out 3 bodies with Ant's Evolve, Ant Summoning, and the 6/6 damage it can deal itself. This guy got 11 consecutive wins in Master, Diamond rank as well. And this is his list. You can see most deck lists typically run a single copy of Kakaitas just for the combo win, where you super evolve this shift into the Kakaitas 10 cost spell that makes your enemy's defense just 1. And yeah, you can see it's just an overall very solid package. Honestly, it's kind of surprising Spellboost got such a complete package set 1. It's like, this is just a strong card. Like, each legendary card does so much. And the only place that I would say Runecraft struggling is the early game, where they don't have a lot of strong things post Angrea. But afterwards, you can see all of these cards are super powerful, all the legendaries especially. So it's just turn 5 play Angrea, turn 6 play Angrea, turn 7 play Kuon, and then you basically have a spell boosted hand that you can go anywhere from there, honestly. Well, so obviously it earns its S tier place. Next one, we have Aggro Dragon. I think Aggro Dragon is honestly, like, maybe it's being underrated right now, but I think it's a high A borderline S tier ladder deck. However, for tournament, because this really does rely on your opponent not being able to answer it, and if you don't get specifically a good a good set of cards early on, and it do that chip damage in early on, going second is also much better than going first for Aggro Dragon. And because of this, although it's a borderline S tier deck for ladder, just because how fast you can end games, for tournament where consistency is key, I think I'll have to give it a B tier at max. Not saying you can't like win tournaments with it, but it's going to be a less consistent strategy compared to the rest of the decks here. So moving into the deck list, we have this guy who got 10 consecutive wins, albeit not in Master Rank, but in AA0, so up there. And this is his list. I'm not sure why he had to copy it like this, but this is how the list went. And importantly, he plays, I think this is called Kit, and it's a 6 cost rush that deals 8-7. It can clear the board, but if it's discarded with Auto Hime, it gives 3-2. So that's a bit of chip damage in as well. And other than that, the main player is definitely Forte, being able to deal 5, 7, or 8 damage depending on how you evolve it. It's just super powerful, and some decks just cannot. If your opponent doesn't draw specific cards, they just cannot deal with it. It's honestly, in my opinion, a pretty strong deck, and the only reason it doesn't work is just specifically tournaments. I say it really does work in ladder, but for tournaments, the moment you break, you just get your higher costed cards. That's it. That's the end of the tournament. And you can say that for a lot of decks, but I think it's especially the case with aggro, where early chip damage is just so important. And with that being said, moving on to the next one. Ramp Dragon. Yep, might be controversial. I think it's honestly, it might be worse than Aggro Dragon. Just because at the moment, Ramp's package doesn't feel very complete. And so, due to that, I feel like it deserves its place in the B tier. But let's just see the deck list we have. So, again, to illustrate how bad Ramp Dragon has it right now, I can only find a 10 consecutive win. It's in diamond rank, but it's only early on C1. So that kind of gives you an idea of where Ramp Dragon is at. And so you can see a deck list here. It's from, I don't know why all the Ramp Dragon lists are just like cropped like this, but you can see it basically runs almost 3 of all the legendaries you can run, and still I don't see a lot of tournament topping or consecutive win lists I can find on Twitter. And so yeah, unfortunately, at the moment at least, I think it's currently being placed at the last spot in the tier list at the moment. We'll see if anyone makes it worse than that. Next one, Abysscraft. I actually do think it's not a bad ladder deck as well, just because if you can end games early in ladder, that's a huge bonus because you can just play more games. And I think the win rate is not bad as well. But again, this is tournament, and for tournament, it cannot be more than a B, I feel. I feel like it probably has more ways to win compared to aggro. Like aggro, the moment you fail with your chip damage and the opponent establishes a big ward board, that's about it. But Abysscraft does have a lot of ways to deal with it, like Medusa or even Cerberus. Cerberus is actually a very powerful card, and so I think it will likely be the top of B for me. Moving on to the deck list, you can see that this person has 16 consecutive wins in Master Rank and Diamond Group. I feel this kind of insane, and it just shows like although the West is having trouble with Abysscraft and like kind of shitting on Abysscraft, Japanese players have been really doing a lot of work with Abysscraft, and you can see that there's actually quite a few consecutive win lists, even more so than Ram Dragon. And so this is the list. It's a very expensive list. It runs almost 3 of each legendary and 3 of Olivia. But you can see it's just a very lean list that like can deal with a lot of boards, can deal a lot of damage, has board clear. I think it really does rely on turn 8 Cerberus, but you can't deny with the results 16 consecutive wins in Master and Diamond rank. Like that's crazy. I'm pretty sure not what most people from the West is expecting. Moving on, we have Havencraft. So I think Havencraft is a pretty solid deck. I don't think it's a very strong deck per se, but what it does consistently, and I think it's a low A. So let's go into the deck list. So this is a guy that got 10 consecutive wins in Master and in Diamond class, and so this is the deck list. You can see it's by this guy, and so he runs 5 Salefas and 3 Jeans, 3 Salefas, 2 Olivias. And I really do think Unholy Vessel and Salefas are really important. Salefa essentially kills any aggro deck, and this is part of the reason why aggro deck can't really stay in tournament tier list, because a single Salefa essentially clears your entire early board. Aggro Dragon, before turn 4, basically everything they play is either 2 defense or lower, and just having you playing Salefa and evolving it clears the board, restores 3 to your leader, and so I feel like Salefa is almost single-handedly part of the reason why aggro just cannot stand in tournament. Yeah, this is the list, and moving on to the next one. The next deck is a bit near and dear to my heart. This is the first deck I was able to build completely, and it's Puppet Porter. Puppet Porter, I think it's a very good A tier deck. It kind of has the opposite problem, or the same problem that Forestcraft has. I think it's slightly better than Forestcraft, because Forestcraft has a problem where it doesn't have ward first off, and secondly, it cannot deal with a lot of wards. Puppet Porter can deal with a lot of wards, as Orchids alone is basically a board wipe. But the problem is it doesn't have a lot of wards, and it can be overwhelmed in a sense. Puppet Porter is a solid deck, except that it doesn't. I would say its weakest point right now is that it doesn't have too much wards, and so if you're against something that really just keeps going face, for example Albert, it doesn't really have much against Albert. Liam's wards are all 3/3 anyways, and that gets cleared by Albert. And I would say Swordcraft is sort of the reason why Puppet and Forest are less consistent in tournament play specifically. But you can see from the decklist example in a while that ladder, at least, like people are having real good success with it. So this is the decklist, and you can see this person got 16 consecutive wins, again in Master rank, in Diamond group. And this is the decklist. Importantly, he runs 3 Orchids, 2 Olivias, 3 UD, because UD is just a good solid card, and Divine Thunder in case to deal with any ambush or intimidate, because that's what I feel Puppet really struggles with. Sylvia is also a great card because to help with aggro decks because of its heal 4. And so yeah, I mean, just look at this. It's 16 consecutive wins. So moving on to the last deck that most people would play. Some people love it, most people hate it. It's Artifact Porter, and no surprise, it's S tier. Just because of how flexible it is. Like if you're fighting an aggro deck, you can play Alpha to heal, play out the ward to just defend. If you're playing against something like Havencraft, you can store the long game, chip in damage with Beta, and so it's just such a versatile deck that honestly, I would say it's in fact one of the more consistent decks as well. The only point that really takes away from Artifact Porter is you really want to be drawing your outlet at least one, otherwise the game plan doesn't fully form. But because of all the artifacts you can make and how each artifact corresponds to a different type of game you want to play, and you can mix and match according to what you're fighting against, I think it deserves its S tier. And you can see from the list as well, this guy, once again, Master, Diamond rank, 14 consecutive wins. And this is the deck. Like definitely, I think here, Owlet is definitely your best card. Ancient Cannon having one off is good just because if you have it, You would never want to see more than one. And if you have it, you play it, it's most likely good, but it's not all the time being good. You once again see Sylvia. I think really what helps Pottercraft is just that Orcus is such a great card, Sylvia is such a great card, and that's why Artifact Potter for the most part is a bit of a hybrid between Puppet and Artifact, because they just have very, very strong cards in Orcus, in this one that gives Bane to a Puppet, Raumia, and then the Artifact package. And so yeah, that's why, in my opinion at least, it's so consistent with so many ways to deal with so many things. Like, look at this deck, it essentially has a way to deal with any deck. Like, not only can it fulfill its plan, but it can deal with any deck trying to disrupt that plan as well. And so because of that, S tier is rightfully deserved. Well, that's all, guys. Like, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if there's any decks that you would have added into here. But I think I've covered most of the decks that I would say 85% of people will be playing on tournament. And so hey, if you can at least, definitely run one of at least the A tier decks if you want to do well in tournaments. I feel like obviously you don't have to, like, play whatever you want. Most importantly, this game is for fun. But like, if you're a competitive player, you want to chase that win, I feel like you almost certainly have to be playing A tier or above. With that being said, let me know what you guys think. Subscribe, like. I'll be posting a video tomorrow, hopefully, about just all the legendary cards, and so going through which one I think are great. And so I'll see you tomorrow.